Part 131. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1311. Of course, they certainly don't think that Wu Yu has improved his strength along the way. I will only think that he used some means to hide his strength before. It's only coming into play now. In fact, Wu Jun himself was surprised because he never expected Wu Yu to behave like this. He still knew very well what Wu Yu's strength was before. Why did he improve so rapidly in the next month? This means that he is specialized in killing the 8-head mysterious immortal or above. However, Wu Yu did not have such ability before. He could only wonder, but he couldn't say it out loud. He could only think like everyone else that Wu Yu hid his strength in the beginning because of the immortal. The immortal behind this really makes the Shenlong clan fearful. After all, this is a world controlled by immortals. But then, another accident happened. Starting from the 10th day to the end, Wu Yu's ranking has not moved. On the 9th day, there was no movement. On the 8th day, there was still no movement. There were only 8 days left, and many dragons couldn't help but smile. It seems that this Wu Yu still has no chance of meeting our Hadalong Tower. If he works hard from the beginning, the top 4 is possible, but now, time waits for no one. The top 10 people are also working hard. It's really a pity that it's soaring all the way but not making it into the top 10. On that day, the Yulong King felt a little more relieved. What no one expected was that on the 7th day to the end, Wu Yu landed one more person. This is his first descent. Being overtaken by others. This shows that Wu Yu seems to have stopped moving in the past few days. He gave up. Tianyu Dragon King was a little nervous, but he was still very happy because time was getting less and less. In fact, as long as Wu Yu doesn't make the top 10, it doesn't matter much. Although he is famous, he doesn't get a single prize. Then on the 6th to last day, another place dropped, and there were only 5 days left. Everyone laughed. If this continues, it is impossible for Wu Yu to enter the top 10. The Heavenly Dragon King looked up and saw that Silver Wizard was still 5th, but he was sure that in the remaining 5 days, Silver Wizard could reach 4th place. Son, work harder. In fact, it was also because the 4th Zhongyan was too powerful, and the Silver Wizard was not as good as him. The Dragon King of the Jianglan realm had only his beloved son, so he naturally worked hard to cultivate him. At this time, the Dragon King of the Jianglan realm was actually extremely nervous, and Tianyu the Dragon King is vaguely tit for tat. In fact, whether Silver Wizard can finally enter the top 4 is also a huge highlight. Silver Witch's last 5 days of opportunity. Zhongyan is also very good. His combat power should be stronger than that of Silver Witch. Actually, I still hope that Zhongyan will enter. In that case, the top 4 positions will not be taken by the heirs of the 3 of them. People's focus has gradually shifted away from Wu Yu. The penultimate day begins. People watched the fierce battle between Silver Wizard and Zhongyan and gradually forgot about Wu Yu, who was still retreating. But at the beginning of the day, few people noticed that Wu Yu suddenly advanced by one person. In another 3 hours, one person will advance again. Then after another 3 hours, one person advanced again. In another 3 hours, another person has advanced. Wu Yu has entered the top 10. I don't know who screamed in surprise. Many people stood up in an uproar. Sure enough, Wu Yu entered the top 10. The 10th place is Wu Yu from the fairy world. These 5 characters are really brilliant now, because entering the top 10, the name will shine even more. The light shines brightly. He's speeding up again. Come back again. Enter the top 10. Wu Jun and the entire fairy world cheered, covering up the voices of others. At this time, the Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza can be said to be particularly lively. What, the Heavenly Dragon King was just looking at Silver Wizard and had forgotten about Wu Yu. But now when I look at it, It turns out that Wu Yu is ranked 10th. 4 days left. Now, entering the final stage, the rankings can change at any time, which is simply thrilling. The Tianyu Dragon King looked very ugly, because the Silver Wizard was not yet in 4th place, but Wu Yu successfully entered the top 10. Seeing Wu Hao and the others' happy faces, and seeing Wu Hao and Ye Qianing hugging each other excitedly, he extremely angry. Moreover, some of the people who were laughing with him were actually praising Wu Yu, which was even more intolerable. You can't get anything from the Haolong Tower for 500 years. And my son needs 10,000 years, he was relieved to finally see his destiny. No matter how hard the fairy world was, he couldn't become the protagonist in the end. Just as he was thinking this, he saw Wu Yu, ranked 9th. On the 4th to last day, he climbed 2 places in a row and ranked 7th. At this time, the dragons were all staring wide-eyed, because there was only one person between Wu Yu and Yin Wu. 5th and 7th. There are still 3 days left. At this time, everyone's focus is on the pillars of purgatory, looking at the 4th, 5th, and 7th. It's crazy. What is going on with Wu Yu? He relies on a large number of clones to search for him, and then works tirelessly to kill all the way, far faster than anyone else. Obviously that's the case, but does it also require strong strength? Is his strength similar to that of Silver Witch and the others? But I'll be exhausted too. But Wu Yu didn't. He didn't seem to know how to be tired. In fact, he had the ability to devour the Buddha Yuan and Immortal Yuan. It was too easy for Wu Yu. This is also his huge advantage, he never gets tired no matter how hard he fights. At this time, the dragons in the fairy world were almost suffocated, because they wanted Wu Yu to enter the top 4. The goal is the same as that of the Silver Wizard. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Brother, it seems that Wu Yu may compete with your Silver Wizard for the 4th place, Tianying Dragon King said with a smile. Impossible, Tianyu Dragon King roared in a low voice, his eyes were full of anger, and the surrounding dragons did not dare to approach him at this time. In fact, there are a few people who are particularly embarrassed, that is, Xuanhuan Dragon King and others. They see the current appearance of Tianyu Dragon King, and they know that even if they go to Tianyu realm, their end will be particularly miserable. After all, Tianyu Dragon King is not in a good mood as before, but they stood up before and claimed to leave, humiliating Wu Jun and others. Now Wu Jun can't want them anymore. How could they have thought that Wu Yu was so dazzling? And now, where is the shame in the fairy world? The shame is all the descendants of the 3 of them. The fairy world is now shining because of Wu Yu. Even the Tianyu realm was speechless. So now, they are completely confused. Fortunately, the Tianyu Dragon King finally laughed. Because at this moment, Yin Wu officially surpassed Zhang Yan and ranked 4th, and his name was even more shining. Ah, Zhang Lanja Dragon King, seeing his son was forced to 5th, sighed and was extremely helpless. He knew that his son was excellent. But he also knew that destiny would definitely help Yin Wu. There were only 3 days left, and Zhang Yan still couldn't hold on and was pulled down. Yin Wu, enter the top 4. Tianyu Dragon King laughed, and then, as long as Yin Wu held on for 3 days, it would be fine. But he didn't laugh for long. Because the next moment, Wu Yu ranked 6th. In front of him were Zhang Yan and Yin Wu. And the gap between Zhang Yan and Yin Wu was not very big. There were still 3 days left. Tianyu Dragon King and all the dragons suffocated again. Until half an hour later, Wu Yu surpassed Zhang Yan. Wow! Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, a long noise. The face of Tianyu Dragon King was dark. As expected, a quarter of an hour later, the Silver Wizard who had just ranked 4th was directly pulled down, and Wu Yu rushed directly to the 4th place, with Lin Xiaoting, Tian Ziyi and Tian Ming in front of him. At this moment, the entire Dragon Emperor Supreme Square was boiling. What kind of killing speed is this to surpass like this? The dragons were amazed, sighed, and looked at the fairy world with admiration. Wu Hao and others cheered loudly and passionately. Many dragon kings were crazy. They were suppressed too hard before. At this time, they broke out and showed no mercy. The sound of laughing and celebrating was extremely harsh. In fact, in this trial, as long as you enter the top 4, it doesn't matter what place you are in. Because the real top 4 need to pass the decisive battle. But this has shown that Wu Yu has at least 1,000 years of Haolong Tower, and he also has the creation immortal artifact. At this time, Wu Yu has already won. Looking at his current state, it is difficult for the Silver Wizard to surpass him. People outside can see it clearly, but who knows that Wu Yu's Dragon Emperor immortal formation has become so powerful. Fourth, then my son will beat Wu Yu to his original form in the first round. Tianyu Dragon King can only think so now. Because Tianming is the first. At the end of the third to last day, people still made a noise. Because Wu Yu surpassed Lin Xiaoting and reached the third place. And Lin Xiaoting has been ranked third for nearly a year. But it's not over yet. On the second to last day, Wu Yu surpassed Tian Zi. In the immortal realm, Wu Yu ranked second, and in front of him were Tianyu realm and Tianming. Noise again. The suspense now is whether Wu Yu can become the first. There is only one day, and Tianzi originally had a big gap with Tianming. But Tianyu Dragon King knew that in the last month, Tianming himself did not kill any enemies at all, he was helping Yin Wu. Time passed very slowly. It was the last day. Everyone was staring at the top of the purgatory pillar. Everyone wanted to know whether Wu Yu could reach the top at the last moment. Now, the face of Tianyu Dragon King was extremely ugly. A year ago, he could never have imagined that Wu Hao and his team could find such a person to make him so embarrassed. Now he was not only angry, but also hateful, because he had never been so embarrassed. But fortunately, his son still kept his last dignity for him, that is, the first on the purgatory pillar. 1 hour left. Half an hour left. A quarter of an hour left. 60 breaths left, and the purgatory pillar still did not change. 30 breaths left, and there was still no change. Many dragons finally breathed a sigh of relief. Tianyu Dragon King still saved his last face. This shows that the destiny is indeed beyond. Wu Yu killed the last 9 combinations of profound immortals. Then, he felt the escape immortal formation on his body automatically activated. It's finally over. In fact, he was helpless. The reason behind this was because of the killing intent of the sky-devouring beast. He was addicted to killing. He also became much stronger. But the most important thing, he came to this Dragon Emperor Purgatory, was still not completed. He didn't find that person. And now, he looked at this Dragon Emperor Purgatory helplessly, looked at this dim yellow world, and then the white light took him away from here. Suddenly, a snow-white dragon scale appeared in the white light and fell into his hand. A familiar voice came to his ears. The floating life sword is the key to open it. That was the voice that guided Wu Yu to the Dragon Emperor Purgatory. Then, he was dragged out of the Dragon Emperor Purgatory and came to the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. For some reason, there was a roar here, and all the dragons were like crazy. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1312. To be honest, Wu Yu felt a little tearful the moment he came out. For a year, he had been looking for the voice that called him in. He thought that after coming in, he would see this person. But he didn't expect that after a year of searching, even with the 100,000 clones, he still couldn't find him. He had actually given up, and felt that he might have been fooled. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. He turned his energy to improving his strength and the ranking of the Purgatory Pillar, so that Wu Jun and the others could leave here with their heads held high. But he never expected that at the moment of leaving, the voice appeared again and put a piece of white dragon scale in his hand. Before he had time to speak and find out who that person was, he appeared in the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. I didn't expect that he would come to me without me looking for him. Wu Yu had a lot of doubts in his heart about the identity of this person. However, he had no choice, because it was obvious that this person didn't seem to be ready to tell him anything. Or all the mysteries were on this white dragon scale. I vaguely remembered that the person seemed to have mentioned the floating life sword, and the floating life sword was the reward for the champion in this trial. He gave me this white dragon scale, and then asked me to win the championship. But I also have to have the opportunity to participate in the final battle. Wu Yu was depressed. If this existence had said it earlier, he would have worked even harder to get into the top 4. As for whether he had made it into the top 4 now, Wu Yu didn't know. He could only look at the purgatory pillar in this tsunami. At this time, his heart was pounding, fearing that he would not be able to make it into the top 4. If I have been improving for a year, how can I make it into the top 4? It was given to me when I left, it was really. Wu Yu was also a little depressed, and now he could only rely on luck. Of course, it was actually an unexpected surprise for Wu Yu to get this piece of dragon scale after leaving, which carried so many clues. At this time, the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square was indeed quite hot. The violent noise was so loud that it was hard to hear what they were shouting. The dragons were loud. Wu Yu looked up and glanced at the top 10, from bottom to top, and saw the 4th place, Tianyi Realm, Lin Xiaoting. It's not him. Then he saw the 3rd place, Tianying Realm, Tianzi. It's still not him. His hope was even smaller. Looking higher, it was all hidden in the clouds. Looking carefully, the 2nd place was, Tianyi Realm, Tianming. It's still not him. Wait, Tianming is 2nd. How is it possible? Who surpassed him? Wu Yu looked up again, his eyes passed through the clouds, and when he saw the 1st place, he laughed, because it said, Xianling Realm, Wu Yu. His name. Are the 3 of them so rubbish? I've only been here for a month, and I've surpassed them all, haha. Wu Yu was of course refreshing. He thought he couldn't even make it into the top 4. Unexpectedly, the answer was revealed. No wonder there was so much noise around, and many people looked at him in shock. It turned out that he got the 1st place. No wonder the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square was so noisy. Wu Yu knew very well that maybe more than a month ago, he was still in the countdown. It was really shocking to kill his way up like this. For Wu Yu, he only needed to be in the top 4. It didn't matter if he was 1st to 4th. Because that voice obviously made him have to participate in the final battle and get the floating life sword to become the 1st. Wu Yu certainly had no choice. There was only one chance to get the floating life sword, and there might be only one chance to open the white dragon scale. If he missed it, it would be a lifelong regret. In this violent noise, when almost everyone's eyes began to lock on Wu Yu, casting shocked and admiring eyes, Wu Yu vaguely heard, he actually surpassed the heavenly Fate Dragon King in the last breath and got the 1st place. Wu Yu said, why is there so much noise? It turned out that the 9-combination profound immortal that he killed last made him just surpass the heavenly Fate Dragon King. The other party had been leading for such a long time, and was finally surpassed by himself. Obviously, it would be very embarrassing. Wu Yu felt a lot of hot eyes. In fact, Tianming and his group were not far away from him, and Wu Yu saw them easily. When Tianming, Longjun and others came out, they were actually quite relaxed. Maybe they regarded the noise as cheering. Silver Wu looked up with great expectation. He knew where he was. When he found his name for the first time in the 5th place, he was petrified. Heartbroken. Who is it? Who got into the top 4? Zhang Yan. He thought it was Zhang Yan who took his place. But he had already seen that Xuanhuan was sixth, behind him. This means that he still surpassed Xuanhuan. Who could it be? In addition to Xuanhuan, he didn't think there was anyone else. Then he looked up. Lin Xiaoting and Tian Ziyi were both fine. They were generally recognized as the top four. But when he found out that Tianming was actually the second, he twitched, and the face of Tianming Longjun beside him was also ashen. The first place he looked at was of course the first place. However, the first place said, Immortal Spirit Realm, Wu Yu. How is it possible? Tianming Longjun was stunned, as if struck by lightning, and stood there in a daze. Did something go wrong? This purgatory pillar can also go wrong? Excluding Wu Yu who made the mistake, you are still fourth. Tianming Dragon Lord comforted Yin Wu. Yin Wu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, the purgatory pillar has never made any mistakes. How could there be such a ridiculous mistake? This Wu Yu should be the last one. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. They were inside and didn't know Wu Yu's final sprint speed, so they could only use this method to explain it. However, this is obviously deceiving oneself. Because in this magnificent noise, no one can hear anyone saying that the purgatory pillar is broken, but everyone is talking about Wu Yu, who surpassed you at the last moment and became the first. Brother Tianming, they seem to be saying, Wu Yu surpassed you in the last breath, from second to first. Yin Wu looked around tremblingly. The dragons who just came out were generally confused, but the other dragons, each of them looked very sober and shocked. Is there something wrong with the purgatory pillar? Tian Ziyi and Lin Xiaoting also came to Tianming in shock. Wu Yu is impossible. I almost killed him last time. His strength is at most the level of Liu He Xianxian, Lin Xiaoting said firmly. This strength is impossible at this position. But judging from what they said, it seems that there is nothing wrong. I saw Wu Yu, he is there, Yin Wu pointed to the crowd. For a moment, hearing this voice, many dragons looked at Wu Yu. They are sure that the purgatory pillar has made a mistake. Even Tianming thinks so. It's very simple. If there is a mistake, it can be easily seen from the Dragon Emperor Immortal formation. At present, the Dragon Emperor Immortal formations of Tianming Dragon King, Tian Ziyi, Lin Xiaoting, and Yin Wu are the most dazzling. At first glance, it is the top achievement. At this time, many dragons even speculated that the purgatory pillar might have made a mistake. They looked at Wu Yu's arm. At this moment, the faces of Tianming Dragon King and others began to pale. Impossible, Silver Wizard almost cried, because he saw that Wu Yu's Dragon Emperor Immortal formation was indeed similar to that of the Heavenly Dragon Lord, surpassing the three of them. He should be only a little stronger than the Heavenly Dragon Lord. An immortal came to participate in the trial of the Divine Dragon and actually won the first place. This is explosive news for the entire Divine Dragon clan. I don't believe it. Silver Wizard was in a state of despair and was about to come to Wu Yu. He probably wanted to check it himself. He had fallen into a state of madness. Don't move, Heavenly Fate pulled him back. He looked at Wu Yu with a cold look and said, be quiet, whether it is true or false, the Heavenly Dragon King knows. Because at this time, the Heavenly Dragon King pretended to press down and said, be quiet. The Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza gradually became quiet. But there were still many people looking at Wu Yu. Wu Yu ignored them and looked towards the direction of the fairy world. On that side, all the dragons were extremely excited, especially Wu Hao, who laughed continuously, and Luo Bin also smiled. Seeing her smile, Wu Yu calmed down a lot. It seems that they are quite satisfied with their performance. And Wu Yu looked at Tianyu Dragon King again. This old guy looked like he had eaten shit, with a stern face, not to mention how stinky his face was. No wonder Wu Hao was secretly happy. Wu Yu's final overtaking was simply a big slap in the face of Tianyu Dragon King, which made him do several somersaults in public, like a monkey. Being able to make Wu Hao and others happy was also a counter-attack against the humiliation of Tianyu Dragon King before. Tianming Dragon King even wanted to get involved with Luo Bin, so Wu Yu would certainly make him suffer. At this time, the Heavenly Will Dragon King said, "The Dragon Emperor Purgatory trial has ended. I am very satisfied with your performance this year. As for your achievements, the Purgatory Pillar has made it very clear, and everyone's ranking is clear at a glance. In the next 9,000 years, the allocation of immortal cultivation resources for the young dragons and the quota for the next Dragon Emperor Purgatory will be allocated to the major realms according to this ranking." The Heavenly Will Dragon King suddenly said in this silent moment, "Excuse me, Heavenly Will Dragon King, is there any problem with the ranking of this Purgatory Pillar? Or is there any problem with the Dragon Emperor Immortal Formation?" It is illogical for him to doubt the growth of Wu Yu's Dragon Emperor Immortal Formation, because Wu Yu does not have such strength at all. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Will Dragon King responded in front of the public, "To doubt the Purgatory Pillar and the Dragon Emperor Immortal Formation is to doubt me and the two Dragon Lords. Do you think that the Purgatory Pillar could be wrong? The two Dragon Lords are here to ensure fairness. Besides, the Tianxing clan is almost the world of the brothers and sisters of Tianyi Dragon King. Even if it is unfair to Wu Yu and the others, and Tianming Dragon King is the beneficiary anyway." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1313. I dare not question Tianming, but I just can't figure it out. He was furious in his heart. Losing to Wu Yu was a great humiliation, especially before that, he also humiliated Wu Hao and others. Now his face was burning with pain. If you can't figure it out, you will figure it out in the final battle, Tianyi Dragon King said. This is to remind Tianming that this ranking is certain and in the past. All the things that can't be figured out can be figured out through the final battle. Wu Yu was fighting inside, and the Dragon Emperor's eye did not pay attention to him, but outside, in this Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, all the dragons were paying attention to him, and what strength he had at that time would be clear at a glance. Tianming understood. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. After all, the Dragon Emperor trial is not over. The next 4 battles will determine the real first, second, third, and fourth, which is the key. In the Dragon Emperor Purgatory, as long as you enter the top 4, there is no difference except the order of the next battle. Take a 5-day rest for now, and 5 days later, we will have a decisive battle here. Who among these young men will be the final champion? Wait and see. After all, the Dragon Emperor trial has only reached the most intense final part. After hearing this, the participants can leave the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square and return to their own Dragon Kings. Wu Yu, although I don't know how you got to this position, but in the decisive battle 5 days later, I will be the first to show you your true form. Lin Xiaoting's expression was cold before he went up. He was 4th, Wu Yu was 1st, and he was Wu Yu's first opponent. I really envy you. You can fight a piece of trash, then you can easily enter the decisive battle. Anyway, at least you are the 2nd place, and I can only be the 3rd place at most when I fight against Tianming, this pervert. I knew earlier, I would let you go. How nice it would be to let me get the 4th place, Tianzi, I cried. The 3rd and 2nd place, the final prize gap is also very large. So the most depressed people now are not only Yin Wu and Tianming, but also Tianzi. In fact, she has the confidence to defeat Lin Xiaoting, but she can only take the 3rd place, which is too depressing. Even the cultivation of the Hadalong Tower is 2,000 years behind. Lin Xiaoting smiled and said, "So, sometimes luck is also a part of strength. You are so good after getting the advantage, You are asking for a beating, Tianzi, I said in a delicate voice. They went back to Tianyi realm, and Tianying realm one by one. When Tianming Dragon King looked at Wu Yu with a vicious look, there was a kind of warning, and then the group returned to their Tianyi realm. But Wu Yu was determined to get the fusion sword. No matter what kind of Dragon King he was, he must have gone all out in this decisive battle. In such a place, Wu Yu did not dare to take out the white dragon scale, did not dare to observe, for fear of being seen by others. Everything would end when he might get the fusion sword. Of course, that existence also gave Wu Yu a problem, because the opponents were very strong, and it was not easy to get the fusion sword. Wu Yu returned to Wu Jun and his friends in the immortal realm amid the shocked, surprised, and admiring eyes of the crowd. Wu Jun and his friends had been waiting for him here for a long time. Yes, Xuanyi and his friends returned with Wu Yu. They were dejected when they returned to their parents' place. When they saw their parents, they were also dejected and looked very bad. Except for them, the other immortal realm dragons were all very happy at this time. Wu Jun said, "Since the words have been spoken, we will not keep you. Now you can go back to pack up and go to Tianyu realm. Of course, if you want to watch the decisive battle, that's fine too." Wu Hao smiled and said, "I have worked with you three for many years. We are all old friends. I am really happy for you three. After all, Tianyu realm is more than 5 times stronger than our immortal realm. You three will rise in status in the future, and you can ignore us. If you become rich, don't forget each other. Haha. People like them must be responsible for the decisions they make. And all this is because of Wu Yu. At this time, Wu Yu is like a hero of the immortal realm." Wu Hao, Wu Jun, Ye Qianing, and Luo Bin were all waiting for his return. All the dragons in the fairy world were cheering for him. For example, the immortal Huang Dragon King finally understood why Wu Hao and his wife liked Wu Yu so much. He was simply a genius. "Congratulations, Wu Yu," Wu Jun said. "You have performed outstandingly and made a big splash. Today, we can stand up straight and have the face to continue sitting here because of you." Wu Hao sighed. Everyone understands why Wu Yu behaved like this. Of course, it is for their face. If it weren't for the fact that the Dragon King was too bullying that day, he wouldn't be bullying like this now. I also want to thank Uncle Jun for giving me this opportunity. Wu Jun asked in a low voice, "Has the purpose of entering been achieved?" Wu Yu nodded and said, "Although there are many twists and turns, it should be considered achieved. But now, I still have to get the floating life sword." "What?" Wu Jun and the other three looked at each other. Wu Hao said, "Fusion sword, you have to defeat Lin Xiaoting and Tianming head-on." "How can you? They are humiliated now, they will definitely show no mercy. Since the goal has been achieved, there is no need to take such risks." Ye Qianing said, "Wu Yu, it's not that your Uncle Hao doesn't want you to participate. Firstly, the three of them are indeed very powerful in combat. Secondly, it's because besides the fusion sword, the Hadalong Tower is actually the best reward, but the Hadalong Tower is obviously not a place where non-dragons are allowed to enter. It is possible that even if you get first place, you actually don't have a chance at the Hadalong Tower. In fact, they are still worried because they don't know exactly what Wu Yu's strength is now." "Don't worry, just listen to what Wu Yu has to say," Wu Jun said. Luo Bin also said, "Wu Yu himself knows it well." Wu Yu then said, "Indeed, I still have some confidence. Now that I have some luck, I may be able to compete with them. The three of you can rest assured. It is possible that I will not be able to defeat them, but they cannot hurt me. I have some pretty fast escape powers. As for the Hadalong Tower, I don't care. I mainly want to get the floating sword, which is more important to me." "Is it related to the existence of Dragon Emperor Purgatory?" Wu Jun guessed. Wu Yu nodded, he still trusted these three elders. "Okay, Then you go all out and let us see how far you can go, Wu Jun decided. Wu Hao and Ye Qianing looked at each other and said, actually, we did receive a lot of insults this time, but you also fought back for us. Now, you don't need to bear our insults and focus on yourself. Just fight. Anyway, as elders, we want you to escape unscathed, which is the most important thing to us. Wu Yu nodded and said with a smile, don't worry, everyone. In fact, the most difficult part has already passed. From now on, it just depends on my performance. I believe this kid has achieved miracles, so what's the difficulty in continuing the miracles? Wu Hao smiled and patted Wu Yu on the shoulder. He was as satisfied as he wanted with his son-in-law. Wu Yu returned to Luo Bin. He is still the same high-spirited and passionate young man as before in this world of dragons. Luo Bin also accommodated him and transformed into a human form to get along with him. If there weren't so many people watching around, they would have hugged each other long ago. Wu Yu leaned on her and said softly, there are too many tyrannical immortals in heaven. Now with the immortal behind amulet, I should be able to be arrogant for a while. With your parents protecting me here, I have to defend them. By the way, I got a piece of white dragon scale in Dragon Emperor Purgatory. Let's go back and study it. Why the fusion sword? Luo Bin asked. Because that person said that the fusion sword is the key to unlocking the white dragon scales. I see, then you should behave well. Won't your mind become unstable if you swallow so much inside? Wu Yu nodded and said, yes, I've reached my limit. Now that I see you, I can't control myself. I really want to breed a few babies with you, Wu Yu said, his eyes turning red. He really wanted to, but with this group of elders here and everyone else preparing for war, he couldn't just drag Luo Bai to reproduce. Luo Bin's face turned slightly red and she said, stop teasing me, I'm too young. Wu Yu felt ashamed and said, don't pretend to be young. In the mortal world, you are an old cow eating young grass, and I am young. You're still young, don't think about these things all day long. The only real thing is to perform well. Next, Luo Bin knocked on his head. Are there any rewards for good performance? It depends on how you behave. So, there's a chance. No. How can I have a chance? I want a grand wedding. A girl's heart is bursting with excitement. I'm a girl now. The Dragon Emperor's purgatory was too stressful. After relaxing by her side, in just 5 days, at least half of the sequelae of the previous devouring were eliminated. Wu Yu was much more awake and wise than when he first came out of it. He had already prepared for the final battle. On the other side, the boys and girls from the Tianyi realm, Tianying realm and Tianyu realm gathered together. The Heavenly Dragon King, the Heavenly Shadow Dragon King and the Heavenly Dragon King are all there. What happened? How could Wu Yu? Tianming still didn't understand. Tianying Dragon King said, first, Wu Yu has a magical power that allows him to create a large number of clones. He can find the Dragon Emperor's prison several times faster than you. And then he has the ability to hide his strength. It is estimated that from the beginning, the real strength lies around Zhuhi Xianxian. Tianming said with a dark face, no wonder, I used the 10,000 Swords Dragon City to trap him before, but he escaped. Tianzi said depressedly, even if this person is in the 9 profound Dao realm, how can he hide his strength in front of you? 1800 hours, 3rd update. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1314. The Heavenly Dragon King said thoughtfully, his immortal body is extremely powerful. As for hiding, his ability is indeed extraordinary. I guess I have to ask the immortal behind him. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Diamond Suit. Diamond Suit. Is there really an immortal behind it? Tianming Longjun asked. The Tianyu Dragon King looked gloomy and said, otherwise. How long does it take for a mortal to become an immortal? Can he cultivate to the realm of a mysterious immortal? How old is Luo Bin? You know, he can only be a few years older than Luo Bin in the mortal world at most. 100 years old. It is estimated that he has only practiced Taoism for about 1,000 years. Even in the top heavenly palace, he is a peerless genius. How could he do it without the immortal behind him? Sky Shadow Dragon King said, "Come on, if you are not sure about things, it is better not to let them have their ambitions and destroy your own prestige. At least this time, it is appropriate to put the destiny first." The Dragon King Tianyi looked at Lin Xiaoting and said, "You have to be clean and neat in your attacks. Don't underestimate your opponent." Lin Xiaoting said, "Yes, foster father. Although he is currently in the top 4 with some magical powers, it will only make him 4th at most. As for what they said, Wu Yu might have the cultivation level of Zhuhi Xianxian, Lin Xiaoting was not afraid, because there were more than 30 people participating in the battle this time who were in the realm of Zhuhi Xianxian. He, Tianzi, and Silver Wizard were more capable than anyone else. All because they are the ultimate dragons. The same Zhuhi Xianxian, the ultimate dragon level, crushing 2 super dragons is not a problem. They are the strongest beings among all the 9 profound Dao realms. During hunting, they might be overtaken by Wu Yu because Wu Yu had the magical power of avatars, but in battle, they were never afraid. "Tianming, don't worry, you don't have a chance to fight Wu Yu," Lin Xiaoting said with a smile. Tianming Longjun said, "I hope you defeat, so that I can personally make him kneel down and beg for mercy." "Brother Tianming, if you are prepared to show mercy to me in the first round, you can compete with Wu Yu for 3rd or 4th place," Tianzi said with a smile. Tianming Longjun was speechless, but he still smiled and said, "I don't want to pity Xiangziu. You could have taken 2nd place, which is a pity. It's all Wu Yu and Lin Xiaoting's fault. You have to give him a good beating. If it weren't for him, how could you have gotten ahead of me?" Tianzi was still unwilling to give in. She obviously took 3rd place, so why was her luck worse than Lin Xiaoting, who was 4th? If she had known this, she would have stopped competing with Lin Xiaoting and just rested for a few days. "If you are so confident, you will do what you say," Tianyi Dragon King said calmly. Later, Tianming asked Tianyu Dragon King alone, "Father, is the immortal behind Wu Yu really so powerful?" The Heavenly Dragon King sneered and said, "Not necessarily. It's not even certain whether there is such a thing." "Then why did you just?" "I told God that he is more suspicious. Besides, our Shenlong clan is so huge, with 9 dragon emperors and so many dragon kings, why should we be afraid of an immortal?" "So what do you mean? Your opponent is not Wu Yu. Just try your best to get 1st place. In that case, I won't be too embarrassed. Wu Hao and the others humiliated you. It's Wu Yu's performance that humiliated me," Tianyu Dragon King said with venomous eyes. Tianming Longjun understood, and he said, "I will tell Lin Xiaoting privately and ask him to be more ruthless. As for me, I will definitely get the 1st place. Apart from the 1st place, everything else means nothing to me. It's good that you know that you have wasted 9,000 years just for today." Of course Tianming Longjun understands. If he had obtained the 10,000-year-old Haolong Tower 9,000 years ago, then there would only be 1,000 years left. In the 10,000-year-old Haolong Tower, he would definitely not be where he is today. 9,000 years. I can only be 1st. The destined Dragon King is extremely hot. But in fact, 5 days passed by so quickly. For the 4 of them, it was just a time to take a breath. Exciting, the moment that everyone is most looking forward to is finally here. In the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, not a single dragon has left, and the information about the top 4 here, as well as the ranking of the Purgatory Pillars, has actually spread throughout the Tianxing clan. Now Wu Yu's name has long been known to everyone. Therefore, Many dragon kings and dragon lords who had not been present before came back from afar to witness the birth of this champion. There were even visitors from the other 8 major clans. After all, this is a grand event for the Tianxing clan. The newcomers were of course discussing who Wu Yu was in the fairy world. These days, too many people come to visit the fairy world and chat with Wu Yu. Even Wu Jun's popularity has improved in the past few days. The day of decisive battle has arrived. The Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza was already bustling with people. The Heavenly Intention Realm, Tianying Realm, and Tianyu Realm over there are vaguely in opposition to the Fairy Spirit Realm opposite. Although the 3 realms are extremely majestic, on the opposite side, because of Wu Yu's presence, the Fairy Spirit Realm will not be overwhelmed. There was no resistance on the ground. At this moment, God's Will Dragon King announced. The real decisive battle of the Dragon Emperor's trial begins from now on. Everyone, please take a look at the top 4 pillars of purgatory. In the first round of the decisive battle, the second place, Tianyu Realm, Tianming, will fight against the third place, Tianying Realm, Tianzi. The fourth place, Tianyi Realm, Lin Xiaoting, will fight against the first place. Fairy World, Wu Yu. Wu Yu's name caused a lot of noise. 2 battles, the winner will fight to decide 1 or 2, and the loser will fight again to decide between 3 and 4. This is a rule everyone knows. It's about to start and people are looking forward to it even more. Although they are all Dragon Kings, the competition among young people is still quite interesting to them. Now, the second place, Tianming of Tianyu Realm, will fight against the third place, Tianzi of Tianying Realm. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. When the names were read, 2 dragons, Tianming Dragon Lord and Tianzi, soared into the sky. The ancient immortal dragon was mighty and domineering, with a transcendent posture. Compared with him, the Zixiao Tianhong dragon was more like a little bird, and looked very playful and cute. The 2 confronted each other in the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. It can begin, Tianyi Dragon King said. Tianming coughed and said, Zier, get ready, I really won't show mercy. This battle is too important to me. Under the attention of the crowd, Tianzi smiled coquettishly and said, Brother Tianming, I know, you know my feelings. Is this a decisive battle or a flirtation? Everyone could only laugh, everyone knew that Tianzi wanted to marry Tianming Dragon Lord the most. Sure enough, before Tianming made a move, Tianzi suddenly said, I have sparred with brother Tianming countless times. He is a realm lord, and I am a 9-combination profound immortal. I always lost, and I had no power to fight back. I will admit defeat in this battle today. There is no need to fight. I have to save some strength to deal with the guy who competes with me for the third place. Speaking of the latter, she glanced at Wu Yu from the immortal realm. She put all her resentment on Wu Yu, and Wu Yu humiliated her in the Dragon Emperor Purgatory. She remembered all of this clearly. She had thought about this a long time ago, and she also got the consent of the Sky Shadow Dragon King. She was indeed not Tianming's opponent. There was no point in fighting him. It would consume and hurt her. It would be safer to crush Wu Yu in her prime. Everyone had no expectations for their battle. They were what the dragons thought, the golden boy and jade girl of this generation. Even if they fought, they would not fight with real swords and guns, and the final result would not be suspenseful. Therefore, the Dragon King of Heavenly will announced, it is allowed to retreat without losing, so this battle is waived, and the winner is Heavenly Will. Tianzi will participate in 5 days and compete for the 3rd and 4th place. In this way, Wu Yu will have to face Lin Xiaoting and Tianzi consecutively. I guess these 2 have a lot of resentment in their hearts. If Wu Yu does not admit defeat directly, it may be troublesome. Yes, before, the limelight of the 3 of them was taken away by Wu Yu. And Tianzi seems to hate Wu Yu very much. I wonder if they have encountered anything in the Dragon Emperor Purgatory. The next game will be interesting, Lin Xiaoting vs Wu Yu. Let's see what Wu Yu's true level is. In fact, Tian Zi's direct surrender was not unexpected by Wu Yu. He didn't care. He only needed to defeat Lin Xiaoting, and then defeat Tianming in the final battle, and then the floating life sword would be in his hands. Because of that voice, that existence, he would never give up the fight for the championship even if he died. At this time, the Heavenly Will Dragon King announced, next, the fourth place, the Heavenly Will Realm, Lin Xiaoting, will fight against the Immortal Spirit Realm, Wu Yu. Maybe because Wu Yu came from outside the three major realms, he had a certain historical significance, and someone finally broke the monopoly of the three major realms, so there were still many people cheering for him. However, his opponent was the adopted son raised by the Heavenly Will Dragon King since childhood. Foster father, I will bring back the glory, Lin Xiaoting said solemnly, and the palace thunder dragon, which was entangled by the nine-color thunder, roared and landed on the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, while his opponent Wu Yu seemed insignificant. Brother Lin, defeat him. In the distance, Xue Binji from the Sky Snow Realm, with a group of girls from the Sky Snow Realm, also shouted for Lin Xiaoting. Of course she hated Wu Yu. Wu Yu stood up, carrying the hopeful eyes of Wu Jun and others, but his emotions were obviously not as excited as Lin Xiaoting, but seemed very cold. At this time, he jumped high with the body of an immortal and rushed to the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. When he landed here, the entire square was engulfed by the crazy nine-color thunder, forming a huge thunder pool. It seemed that any creature that fell into it would be instantly electrocuted into powder, and the thunder dragon of the palace was freely wandering on it. At this time, the Heavenly Dragon King had not announced the start yet. Wu Yu. Your doomsday is here, Lin Xiaoting sneered. Last time I let you escape, this time, I want to see where you can escape to. Wu Yu landed in front of him and looked down at him. He said lightly, this time, the one who wants to escape is you. His speed was extremely fast, and he was in front of Lin Xiaoting in the blink of an eye. At this time, thousands of dragons, dragon kings, and dragon kings were holding their breath and watching. The Heavenly Dragon King finally announced that the battle could begin. Destruction, the thunder dragon of the palace immediately lifted the nine-color thunder pool and rushed towards Wu Yu. To cover Wu Yu in it. Nine-colored thunder hell. His innate magical power exploded horribly, and Wu Yu's tiny body looked extremely pitiful here. But, for Wu Yu, this level was nothing. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1315. The present is different from the past. The last time they met, Lin Xiaoting's nine-colored thunder forced Wu Yu to flee directly. Even so, he was injured and it took him some time to recover. Remember the domain name of this site, Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. And today, in this Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, a head-on confrontation. The onlookers, like Tian Zi, are optimistic about Lin Xiaoting. In fact, these four decisive battles seem to have no suspense. Tianming easily defeated Tian Zi, then Lin Xiaoting easily defeated Wu Yu, then the third and fourth duel, Tian Zi easily defeated Wu Yu, and the final battle, Tianming easily defeated Lin Xiaoting. Because of this, everyone thinks that Lin Xiaoting is lucky and Tian Zi is unlucky. Obviously, the Dragon Emperor Immortal formation is stronger, but it has to fall to third. Lin Xiaoting will win within 10 breaths. His aura is much stronger than Wu Yu's. Many Dragon Kings made such a judgment. At this time, the nine-colored thunder completely involved Wu Yu. The violent lightning was like a nine-headed beast, biting Wu Yu's body madly. Tear you into pieces, Lin Xiaoting's laughter was like thunder. He must be the thunder god in the heavenly palace in Wu Yu's imagination. Het. Wu Yu asked him to make the first move, just to see what he could do. Now it seems that he is only stronger than the 9-combination Xianxian he killed in the Dragon Emperor Purgatory. It's his turn. His strong body withstood the attack and rushed forward swiftly, rushing towards the Thunder Dragon of the Palace of Gods. Exorcism Technique. A strong shock directly tore the 9-colored thunder pool and bombarded the Thunder Dragon of the Palace of Gods. Roar. The Thunder Dragon of the Palace of Gods was shocked and his eyes turned white. A pretty good attack from the immortal god. Many people saw this exorcism technique and instantly knew its power. But this is just the beginning. Heavenly Domain Divine Eyes. Using the exorcism technique to open the way, Wu Yu advanced in this 9-color thunder pool. After the exorcism technique, his eyes suddenly burst into fierce flames. These two flames directly bombarded the Divine Palace Thunder Dragon Immortal God when it was shaken. For a time, the Divine Palace Thunder Dragon was shaken to the sky. I'm afraid that 2 holes were blasted on its body, and the fire of the golden eyes burned on its body, turning it into a flame dragon for a while. At this time, the screams of the Divine Palace Thunder Dragon were clearly seen. His huge dragon body struggled in the air, like a poisonous snake hit by a stick. At this moment, many Dragon Kings frowned, and many Dragon Kings widened their eyes and took a breath of cold air. The change in the battle situation was too fast, and no one reacted for a while. 100,000 Immortal Dragon Sword. Wu Yu's expression was indifferent. He penetrated the 9-color thunder pool and pursued the victory. In his hand, the ancient immortal weapon Xuanhuan Longjian sword burst out with quite terrifying power. The sword energy was crisscrossed, killing out the sword energy of 100,000 immortal dragons, soaring into the sky. At this time, the Thunder Dragon of the palace had just strangled the flames with thunder, and rushed out with a charred body, but was swallowed by the 100,000 sword energy again. For a while, his body was covered with dense blood stains, and his body was pierced several times again. No, Lin Xiaoting saw Wu Yu's indifferent and relaxed eyes. He couldn't accept it. He originally thought it was good luck, but the reality was that he was crushed and defeated. It's okay. The battle is over. The voice of the Heavenly Will Dragon King shocked the audience. Wu Yu would never let the dragons have any handle on him, so after hearing what the Heavenly Will Dragon King said, he stopped. Of course, even if he stopped at this time, the Thunder Dragon of the Palace Lin Xiaoting would not be able to fight back. When he stopped, the huge, charred, and full of sword holes, the Palace Thunder Dragon, fell from the sky to the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square, and its dignity was destroyed. Wu Yu stood proudly in the sky, his expression indifferent, and easily put away the immortal light dragon sword. Thank you. Wu Yu had a smile on his lips. The Dragon Emperor Supreme Square was silent at this time, and time seemed to stand still. After looking around, all he saw were incredible eyes. They couldn't believe it. Even Wu Jun, Wu Hao, and others couldn't believe it, because they didn't know at all, and they couldn't imagine that Wu Yu could really defeat Lin Xiaoting. Ugh! Lin Xiaoting spat out a mouthful of dragon blood, and struggled to prop himself up on the mirror. His face was bloody, and he insisted, "No. It's not over yet. I can fight again." But just after he finished speaking, blood spurted out again. There was still a lot of Wu Yu's sword energy on his body, which needed to be expelled. Enough. He is the adopted son of the Dragon King of Heaven's Will. The Dragon King of Heaven's Will cannot help but care about him. At this time, the Thunder Dragon of the Palace of Gods was grabbed by the Dragon King of Heaven's Will and flew in front of him. He said to a Dragon King beside him, "Take him to heal his wounds. 5 days later, we still have to compete for the 3rd place." No, Lin Xiaoting still couldn't bear such a result. But it didn't matter anymore, because no one cared whether he could bear it or not. Their attention was now on Wu Yu. The expressions on many people's faces were very exciting. Papa, Wu Jun started to applaud and laughed, "Wu Yu, you performed really well. Congratulations, I didn't expect that someone from my fairy world could also enter the finals. He took the lead in applauding, and the fairy world was basically applauding, and many people were also led. Only the Dragon King of Immortal Yi and others were more embarrassed, especially Xuanhuan. Wu Yu defeated Lin Xiaoting with his fairy light dragon roar sword. He also said that he would win back Wu Yu one day. Now it seems like a joke. Ba bang bang bang, more and more people applauded, and many dragons expressed their sincere admiration. Of course, watching the dragon waving its claws and clapping, the scene was quite weird. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Brothers Wu Jun and Wu Hao were really happy. Now, no matter how you say it, you are second to none. I didn't expect that this kid Wu Yu would hide so deeply. They were smiling happily, but on the other side, the Tianyi realm, Tianying realm, and Tianyu realm were silent. Here, there are 3 dragon kings of the 100 realms and their children, including Tianming and Tianzi. Tianzi was a little confused. She had envied Lin Xiaoting before, but now, she was a little scared. She knew very well that even if she were in her place and participated in the battle just now, she would be the one who was completely defeated. Who would have thought that Wu Yu was so terrifying? She used to look down on him at all, but now, his calm look made Tianzi tremble slightly, and she was secretly glad that her opponent was not him. As for Tianyu Dragon King and Tianming Dragon King, their expressions can be said to be even more exciting. Just now, father and son were still chatting and laughing, and they were all preparing to celebrate after Tianming got the first place. Now, Wu Yu slapped them on the face again. Especially the Heavenly Dragon King. He humiliated Wu Hao this time. From then on, every time Wu Yu performed was a counterattack. Until now, even he, the Heavenly Dragon King, was a bit of a joke. This time was obviously equivalent to Wu Yu giving him a disincentive. Tianzi admitted defeat, but Wu Yu easily defeated Lin Xiaoting, which put pressure on the father and son. At this moment, perhaps the Destiny Dragon Lord finally regarded Wu Yu as an opponent. Interesting. How interesting. I didn't expect that I would meet such an opponent during my second participation in the Dragon Emperor's Purgatory. How interesting, the Destiny Dragon Lord sneered darkly. The Tianyu Dragon King also smiled and said, "It seems that Wu Jun and Wu Hao really rely on Wu Yu to fight with me. Very good, they are really courageous. Don't even look at this Tianxing clan. Whose family is in charge of the world? You are so courageous." He was also furious. How many years have passed? The last marriage between Wu Hao and Ye Qianing was a big blow to the young man. But everything went smoothly from then on. He never thought that one day, Wu Hao would show up again and treat his son extremely badly in this situation. In the crucial battle, he obstructed himself and even confronted himself tit for tat. Even slap yourself in the face. This really made the Heavenly Dragon King angry again. Don't be too excited. This guy can defeat Lin Xiaoting, but he is still a little behind your son. After all, he is in the Realm Lord Divine Realm, which is different from the Xianxian Tianying Dragon King said calmly. Anyway, her Tianzi is probably sure to be in third place, because Wu Yu severely injured Lin Xiaoting, but instead helped Tianzi. Tianyu Dragon King said, "This is the truth. It's time to let these lively guys know what despair is. Ming-er, the decisive battle will take place in 5 days. Go all out. If you can kill them, don't let them live." Tianming Longjun said, "Father, don't worry, we let this clown bully us to come to our doorstep, and he is still showing off his power here, making people laugh. Naturally, I have to teach him a lesson and let him know what the Realm Lord God Realm is. Of course, this will definitely be the hardest lesson in his life, because maybe there will be no next time for him." Sky Shadow Dragon King smiled and said, "Are you really crazy? Don't you think about the immortal behind?" Tianming Longjun said, "Come on, this is our immortal Dragon Emperor realm. It was he who came here with insults. No matter how strong the immortal behind him is, he couldn't control the normal sparring and died. That's because he has no ability. He can't blame others. In addition, we have 9 dragon emperors and so many dragon kings, all of whom are immortal emperors, so why are we afraid of the immortals behind? If you want to take this risk, it's not impossible. Anyway, you should bear the consequences yourself. Tianying Dragon King curled his lips. It had nothing to do with her anyway. Of course the father and son knew it was a risk, but after all, they couldn't swallow this breath. The more he looked at Wu Yu, the destined Dragon King, he became increasingly angry. I waited 9,000 years for the 10,000 years bright Dragon Tower and wasted 9,000 years just to get first place. But suddenly a person like this appeared. He took away my number 1 purgatory pillar, humiliated us, and now he wants to take away my Haolong Tower for 10,000 years. How can I be willing to do this without tearing you into pieces? 9,000 years, this is not a short time. How much have I paid for these 9,000 years? Therefore, it does not need to be said by Tianyu Dragon King that he will definitely be the craziest in the decisive battle. Rest for 5 days. Gone in the blink of an eye. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng-Qing Yang. Chapter 1316. Wu Yu returned to the fairy world camp and was cheered. The dragons wanted to throw him up high. This time, the fairy world can be considered proud. Since the history of the fairy world, no one has entered the top 100. Wu Yu is now good and directly raises the record to the top 2. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Actually, even if you are second, we are satisfied. It is also a favor to Tianyu Dragon King. Letting his son get first is just leaving them with the last fig leaf, Wu Hao said with a smile. They are so rude to you, so don't leave it to them, Wu Yu said. Wu Hao was a little speechless and asked, do you really want to fight to the death? You know, destiny has been waiting and wasting 9,000 years for this day. If you really let you win the championship, it would be too cruel for him. Wu Yu said, I don't know the result, but I have to work hard. As for cruelty, I think everything depends on strength. Since I participated, and since he can't stop me, then this is his nature, and it cannot be considered cruel. To practice is to plunder. Anyway, I support you and go all out. As for offending them, we have already offended them. Anyway, they are all offended. There is no difference between offending them by 9 points and offending 10 points, Wu Jun said. Ye Qianing said, the most important thing is that you are safe. Don't worry, you 3. I will go all out in this final battle, but there is no life-threatening danger. You can tell this by seeing how relieved Luo Bin is. She was used to seeing Wu Yu being so high-spirited and making everyone shocked by him. In this vast heaven, perhaps the inheritance of a top immortal was nothing. But when this inheritance merges with the sky-swallowing giant beast, it is an unprecedented miracle. This is Wu Yu's capital to create other miracles. Others thought he was hiding his strength before. For 5 days, the blazing eyes on the other side were a form of oppression. Those who followed the 3 major realms glared at Wu Yu and put psychological pressure on Wu Yu. The entire Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza is actually very silent, and this silence is the silence before the storm, which shows that the Dragon Kings are looking forward to the decisive battle between these juniors. But before the final battle, there was an appetizer, which was the battle between 3rd and 4th place. Tian Ziyi faced off against Lin Xiaoting, who had returned from injury. After Lin Xiaoting came back, he was very silent and obviously a little frustrated. But the rewards for 3rd and 4th are also relatively large. Obviously, they will do their best. However, There are not many people who really care about which of them is third and which is fourth, maybe only the Tianyi realm and the Tianying realm. To everyone else, third and fourth are the same. Brother Lin. Xue Benji washed her face with tears for several days. Finally seeing Lin Xiaoting return safely, she was freed from the pain. Of course she didn't expect that her heroic brother Lin would be defeated miserably at the hands of Wu Yu, and of course she couldn't believe her eyes. We must defeat her and get third place. If he can get third, he will be considered to have achieved Lin Xiaoting's set goal. Although he failed miserably in the first game, it's still okay. This appetizer started quickly, but not many people really paid attention to it. This battle was very exciting. The two were almost evenly matched. One was the Zixiao Celestial Dragon and the other was the Divine Palace Thunder Dragon. They were both the ultimate dragons. The two ultimate dragons killed each other in the sky and on the ground. It was so lively. For a while, Ziki and thunder it filled the surroundings, roared everywhere, and the world was shaking. The exciting battle still attracted the attention of many people. Tianzi waited for work, but Lin Xiaoting learned his shame and became brave and fought desperately. Neither of them wanted to lose twice in a row, so it was equivalent to turning against each other and killing without mercy. Although their battle was just an appetizer, it was also quite attractive. Moreover, the battle lasted for a long time, and the two giant divine dragons were evenly killed. In the end, Tianzi, who was still waiting for work, was superior in skills, relied on calmness and wisdom, and defeated Lin Xiaoting with difficulty. Of course, he himself was also severely damaged, but he only persisted for a little longer, and finally won, and gained an extra 1,000 years. The opportunity to practice in Hadalong Tower. It's quite worth it. As for Lin Xiaoting, he originally planned to have at least 4,000 years of training opportunities in the Hadalong Tower, but now he only has 1,000 years left. The end of their battle actually caused cheers, because the dragons were waiting for this last battle, the final battle. I originally thought that the 4 battles would not be exciting, but because Wu Yu was extraordinary and defeated Lin Xiaoting, the situation changed, and the remaining 2 decisive battles became extremely exciting. The most anticipated one, of course, was the Realm Lord God realm, which was almost eliminated. The destined Dragon King, who thought he was invincible here, met the mysterious and unpredictable Wu Yu, a dark horse. After the Zixiao Celestial Honglong and the Divine Palace Thunder Dragon both went down, the dragons waited with suffocation until the Heavenly Dragon King stood up and announced, "This Dragon Emperor trial has finally reached the final moment. Next, the two of them will fight all the way to the end. The final battle between the warriors will determine the final champion. In countless years, only the champion will be remembered, while the second place will be quickly forgotten. So, who will be the champion today?" The words of the Heavenly Will Dragon King were very emotional, making the Dragon Kings all shout the name of Heavenly Will at this time. This was what the Shenlong clan hoped for. This was the face of the Shenlongs. In addition to the support of the immortal spirit realm for Wu Yu, the Shenlongs were still unwilling to let an immortal crush all the Shenlongs and win the championship. So, where was the face of the Tianxing clan? These overwhelming and sea-like voices were a huge oppression for Wu Yu. These were all the Dragon Kings of the Taixu Fairyland. They had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Tianyu Realm, Heavenly Will, go to battle. Under the call of the Heavenly Will Dragon King, an ancient immortal dragon descended from the sky in an extremely domineering manner and flew over the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. Compared with Zixiao Tianhong Dragon and Shengong Thunder Dragon, this ancient immortal dragon is more domineering and has more kingly aura, as if he is a natural king, crushing the world and dominating the universe. In addition, he has reached the realm of the Master of the World, and his temperament is even more extraordinary. With his every move, he can integrate with the world. He obviously understands what the world and space are better than Wu Yu. Xianling realm, Wu Yu, go to battle. When Wu Yu was read, there was no cheering, but a huge boo. In the end, the dragons still showed their support with their attitude. Even if Wu Yu is not from the three major realms, he is not a dragon after all. If he gets the first place, it will damage the face of the dragon. Moreover, the dragons also admire the patience of the Dragon King of Heaven for 9,000 years. Such a dragon should get what he wants. Amidst the boos, Wu Yu's robe billowed. Although his body was small, his aura was not weak at all. Especially in this huge booing, he could still maintain himself and move forward under the strong pressure of the Destiny Dragon King. Like an arrow from a bow, he came to this battlefield, the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. Now the Destiny Dragon King is the only one left in the whole world. Wu Yu knows how to make himself more focused. There is no need to be arrogant when dealing with such an opponent. Wu Yu can clearly feel the horror of the opponent's autonomous world power. It is a kind of power that feels difficult to resist, so he is not very sure of fighting, but he has a determination to win, because he must get the floating life sword. Therefore, it is obvious that today will be a deadly battle with no known outcome. Wu Yu intends to drive his opponent crazy even if he is wasting time or fleeing. And the Destiny Dragon King, as expected, is full of murderous intent, not concealing it at all. His goal is very clear. At this time, he probably forgot everything about the Haolong Tower. He just hates Wu Yu and wants to kill Wu Yu. Before the battle, Wu Yu directly used the Heaven Emperor technique to transform into a giant of 12 feet. In this way, he could barely match the opponent in size. The comparison of the size was like a big python and a small monkey the size of an arm. Because Wu Yu had already used the immortal ape transformation at this time, and transformed into a golden immortal ape, which was sturdy, domineering, and fierce. He even felt that he was evenly matched with the ancient immortal dragon. Is he an immortal beast? A kind of ape, a divine dragon asked. No, this is a kind of transformation technique, which is mainly to strengthen the body. Most dragon kings can see it. This ape looks really ugly, and it can't be compared with our divine dragons. That's natural. In terms of momentum, it can barely be compared with the Destiny. A divine dragon, high above, looked down on Wu Yu, with murderous intent. A golden fairy ape, with bloodshot eyes, fierce face, domineering and rebellious, also stared at the opponent, just waiting for the order of the Heavenly Dragon King, and the two would explode. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. The Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords were also a little impatient. After you die, when Lupin grows up, I will marry her, and my offspring with her will definitely be the eternal Heavenly Heart Dragon. Maybe in the future, our Tianxing clan will have another Dragon Emperor, Tianming said. He said this to Wu Yu alone. That's easy. After you and your father die, I will also marry your mother and give birth to another nest of ancient fairy dragons, Wu Yu said with a smile. Using this method to stimulate Wu Yu, there is no way. Wu Yu grew up in the mortal world, and he is a little worse than a gangster. Do you know how rebellious your words are at this time? Tianming said in a deep voice. I advise you to say less, because the loser can just bow his head, kneel on the ground and cry, and has no right to speak. Wu Yu's response was tougher than his. Very good. Very good. Just a few words completely ignited the fire. His 9,000 years of waiting, the pain and depression would definitely make him crazy today. Finally, in the expectation of the people, the Heavenly Will Dragon King announced, the decisive battle can begin. This is equivalent to lighting the fuse of a pile of explosives, and then, there will be an explosion in the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. Buzz. The Heavenly Will Dragon King, with murderous intent all over his body, naturally exploded instantly. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1317. Destiny World. Sure enough, when the Destiny Dragon Lord made a move, it was the ultimate means of his realm master. Autonomous World. That was the world he created in his body, a space that belonged entirely to him. He is now a one-realm immortal, and his autonomous world may not be large, but it is indeed enough to deal with a mysterious immortal like Wu Yu. At this moment, he suddenly expanded the world in his body. For a time, a white world with nothingness, with his body as the core, expanded, which was 5 times larger than the range of Wu Yu's fairy cloud domain. The closer it is to his body, the more solid it becomes, becoming a real world that can be entered. And at the far edge, it becomes more and more virtual, and finally connects with the vast world outside. This is the autonomous world. Wu Yu is now trapped in this destiny world. The autonomous world is actually a bit similar to the domain, such as Wu Yu's fairy cloud domain, but it is actually different in nature, and the power is also different, and it is even absolutely more advanced. And this world is under the exquisite control of the ancient immortal dragon. Suppress. Instantly, the power of the world filled the surroundings. The ancient immortal dragon thought and let the surrounding space and power squeeze towards Wu Yu. For a moment, the terrifying power bombarded Wu Yu's body, squeezing him all over. If he didn't resist or leave quickly, he would definitely be squeezed into a meat pie. First, the legs of the golden immortal ape were bent down as if they were broken. Kneel down. It turned out that the destiny was exerting its divine power, and all the power of the world of destiny suppressed Wu Yu. For a moment, everyone looked at each other, even Wu Hao's face was not good, and he said, maybe Wu Yu still underestimated the power of the Realm Master Realm. Normally, the world power of the Realm Master Realm is absolutely suppressive to the Xianxian. Even the Zhuhi Xianxian can't resist it for 10 breaths. This is the huge gap between the Realm Master Realm and the Jixuan Dao Realm. Wu Jun also said, Wu Yu, may be a little arrogant. But Luo Bin was not in a hurry. As for the others, they smiled with ease and said, I said that the two are not at the same level. Wu Yu can only be regarded as the most powerful among the Xianxian. When he encounters the realm of the Lord of the Realm, he still has to show his true form. When Tianyu Dragon King saw this scene, he smiled. After all, this was not beyond his expectations. No matter what, his son will definitely be the protagonist today. Wu Yu did experience the horror of the power of the autonomous world. The power of this suppression almost flattened his body, and even blood and fragments flowed from the corners of his mouth. Those were all parts of the Dragon Elephant Buddha Yuan. But this is just the beginning. The third level of the somersault cloud, shape-shifting. When Tianming suppressed the power of the entire world of destiny on the part around Wu Yu performed the shape-shifting and instantly broke away from that part and appeared behind Tianming Dragon King. God Driving Technique. Instantly disappeared, God Driving Technique, instant impact. When Wu Yu disappeared, Tianming Dragon King was stunned and was indeed extremely shocked. There are too many people who are as dull as him. But he immediately felt the threat, and he quickly transferred the world power to his back, just in time to block Wu Yu's attack of the exorcism technique. Unexpectedly, this autonomous world power is so terrifying that it can even resist the exorcism technique. And it can be changed at will. It is indeed worthy of being the world he controls. This magical power is really good, but this is my world, the ancient immortal dragon suppressed again, and this time it was more powerful, like a wave rushing towards Wu Yu. But this time, Wu Yu still easily avoided it. Changing his shape and shadow, constantly changing, while the Lord of Heaven's destiny constantly attracted the power of the world to suppress Wu Yu. And Wu Yu's counterattack also made his world power basically easily intercepted, including the heavenly domain Divine Eye. He was like being protected by the whole world, and it was really difficult to hurt him. Of course, Wu Yu knew the trouble. The opponent's world power suppressed him, and it was pervasive. Although he could dodge it by changing his shape and shadow, he was quite embarrassed. Now his body actually has some injuries, and many golden monkey hairs are stained with blood. In response, the heavenly fate dragon king had only a sneer. How long can you run away if you just run away in a panic? Because the power of his world is endless, he is not afraid at all. His world is connected to the outside world, and he can continuously absorb the power of the outside world. And why is it the world of destiny? This is the characteristic of his ancient immortal dragon. He can more accurately judge Wu Yu's attack and appearance position and attack and defend first, so from the beginning, Wu Yu was quite embarrassed. Seeing such a scene, the Dragon Kings had a certain prediction of the outcome. Indeed, even if Wu Yu had some magical means, he was still suppressed by his opponent due to the huge gap in realm. And it was a comprehensive and complete suppression. Because Wu Yu was suppressed, the battle was not so intense. The people who were thrilling before were relieved at this time, because for them, the battle was no longer suspenseful, and Wu Yu's defeat was a matter of sooner or later. Especially at this time, the heavenly fate dragon king, after controlling the power of his own world, actually offered a more terrible weapon. The immortal weapon of creation, Wanjian Dragon City. A huge, real, completely habitable white city appeared above the head of the Dragon King of Destiny. Then, the entire city turned over, almost merging with his world of destiny. Then, surrounded by the dragon, the tip of the 10,000 sword pointed to the ground, and Wu Yu, no matter where he went, as long as he was within the scope of the Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza within, everyone is considered to be enveloped by the city. Next, it's your end. The suppression of the power of the world, coupled with the terrifying killing moves of Wanjian Dragon City. When I looked up, there were sword blades everywhere. It was really scary. At this time, the world controlled by the other party is filled with murderous intent. Wu Yu was already suppressed in an extremely embarrassed state, but the appearance of 10,000 Swords Dragon City announced his death. Moreover, destiny shows no mercy at all. As soon as 10,000 Swords Dragon City comes out, it creates an immortal weapon and kills directly. You bastard from the mortal world! Go to hell! For a moment, the power of the world and 10,000 Swords Dragon City were activated at the same time. In an instant, countless buildings above 10,000 Swords Dragon City, whether they were bricks or tiles, everything turned into sword light. Under the leadership of Wan's true sword, it fell like a downpour, swallowing up the entire Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza in an instant. No matter where Wu Yu goes, he can't stop such an attack, and the world power of Tianming is still suppressing Wu Yu. A double blow will completely kill Wu Yu. Suddenly so ruthless, Tianming proved his murderous intention to almost everyone. The creation of the immortal weapon plus the power of the world was indeed too bullying, but he was willing, and he directly used all his strength, that is in order to completely kill Wu Yu. Otherwise, how can you take it out? This scene caused a huge storm for a while. He wants to kill Wu Yu. Wu Jun, Wu Hao, and Ye Qianing were all shocked. They were very angry and couldn't help but break the rules to destroy the attack. Of course they know that doing so will bring them disastrous consequences. Don't move, Luo Ben reacted quickly and stopped them. He's fine, Luo Ben said quickly. After being stopped by Luo Ben, Wu Yu was a step behind and was swallowed up by the sword rain from Wanjian Dragon City. Ye Qianing looked at her in disbelief and said, "Is this okay?" Luo Ben said firmly, "Don't worry, he didn't take the initiative to ask for help, so he'll be fine." Wu Jun and the others were frightened. Anyway, they had already lost time and could only wait and see what Wu Yu would do. Other than exclaiming and lamenting the power of destiny, the others certainly had no intention of saving Wu Yu, and even gloated a little. Looking at the Tianyu Dragon King again, he was smiling and calm. All of this was within his plan. Moreover, the Dragon Lord who was watching the battle did not move, which obviously showed that the Dragon Lord also gave permission. In this battlefield, no one knows better than Tianming how terrifying his killing power is. He controlled Wu Yu with direct power, and then poured all the killing moves of Wanjian Dragon City on him. Such moves, even opponents at the same level as him would be completely destroyed. I have been waiting for 9,000 years. Let you fight with me. This Tianxing clan is our territory. You don't know whether to live or die. You deserve this result. My Hadalong Tower is 10,000 years old. No one can take it away this time, let alone a nobody like you. As for the ancient immortal spirit dragon, I am actually not kidding. How can I regret my father's regret again, haha. Tianming continued to kill and then left. He was confident that under such suppression by the power of the world and the bombardment of 10,000 swords and Dragon City, Wu Yu would have been wiped out. And in front of all the dragons watching, there was no suspense at all. Until one moment, the Dragon King of Heavens will show doubts in his eyes. He suddenly raised his head and was astonished to see another terrifying giant beast burning with black flames in the sky, beyond the scope of the world of destiny. His breath told him that it was Wu Yu, but a different Wu Yu. Through the black flames, he saw the body of the giant beast. It was a ferocious giant beast with pitch-black dragon scales, sharp claws, sharp teeth, a snow-white horn, and then a steel-like with huge fleshy wings and a tail like a spear. Compared with the dragon, it may not be so orthodox and domineering, but it is more ferocious, darker, and more terrifying. Such a giant beast is unheard of. It clearly looks like a terrifying demon and god, but it is full of fairy energy, with only a small amount of demonic or ghostly energy. He suddenly appeared, the black flame burning on his body possessing an explosive power, which was a kind of self-combustion. What is that? At this moment, everyone looked up in surprise. At this moment, Tianming also felt it. When the power was poured out, he seemed not to feel the presence of Wu Yu, and then there was a threat above his head. Look up in surprise. At that moment, a terrifying giant beast burning with black flames suddenly landed. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1318. This scene was as if the golden immortal ape had been killed, but a murderous super-killing behemoth appeared in the sky. Compared with each other, their auras were completely different. The former is violent, domineering and rebellious. The latter is gloomy, cold, and mysterious. The heavenly Dragon Lord was stunned for a moment when he saw Wu Yu's new body in his own destiny world. For a moment, he was frightened by the other party's evil aura. However, he is the ultimate dragon. No matter what kind of monster you transform into, you must die. The Dragon King of Destiny was furious in his heart, and the power of the heavens erupted. The many divine dragons around him, even the Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords, all felt so incredible at Wu Yu's changes at this moment. What the hell is this? When they were still doubtful, Wu Yu descended from the sky and once again fought fiercely with the Destiny Dragon Lord. It should be said that this was Wu Yu's first counterattack. When he transformed into this form, with black flames burning on his body, he seemed to have undergone a transformation and was completely different. No matter how diverse you are, you will still be a clown in the face of absolute strength. The Dragon King of Destiny smiled contemptuously. When Wu Yu rushed down, he once again used the power of the world to mobilize the immortal weapon 10,000 Swords Dragon City. At this time, Wanjian Dragon City turned over again. This time it was normal, with the front facing up, a vast city facing Wu Yu. Sky-splitting sword. Under the control of Tianming Dragon Lord, 10,000 shining sword shadows burst out from the 10,000 swords in Wanjian Dragon City, and then gathered into a sharp giant sword. On top of that giant sword, it carried the entire city. The outline of 10,000 Swords Dragon City suddenly rushed to the sky, locked onto Wu Yu, and pierced away. This move can make many older Dragon Lords admire it. When they were in the realm of immortal lord of one realm, it was completely impossible for them to possess the immortal weapon of creation and emit such lethality. Would Wu Yu be able to cope? Or should he flee again? People flashed this question in the light of the calcium carbide fire, because before this moment, Wu Yu could be said to have been running around under the suppression of the Destiny Dragon Lord. This moment happened instantly. Whoops! That giant sword was so fast that it could even tear apart the space of the immortal Dragon Emperor realm wherever it went. But people were also shocked to see that Wu Yu, who was burning with black flames, was not afraid at all. Facing the giant sword, charged directly towards him. Incredibly brave. Next, it's even more incredible. That was his huge divine body, which suddenly turned into a black vortex. The black whirlpool was extremely huge, and in the next moment, the giant sword of Wanjian Dragon City was thrust into the center of the whirlpool. However, it did not penetrate from behind the whirlpool, but was like a sword thrust into a high-speed rotating millstone, producing a harsh friction sound. For a moment, such a harsh friction sound made even the Dragon Kings frown. There were many mysterious immortals here, which made it even more uncomfortable. Bright sparks are flying everywhere. How is that possible? People saw with their own eyes that the giant sword became shorter and shorter, as if it was being worn away by the millstone. Within about 3 breaths, the giant sword shattered and was swallowed into the black vortex. Then, the black vortex suddenly rotated in the opposite direction, and its speed soared instantly. Suddenly there was an explosion, and the dragon suddenly saw a black giant sword rushing out of the vortex, and at the same time, the vortex once again became the flaming black beast. The giant sword that rushed out was larger and faster than before. It hit Wanjian Dragon City with lightning speed. Boom! For a time, countless city buildings were destroyed in Wanjianlong City, and the city in the sky was hit and tilted. Even the Tianming Dragon Lord below was stunned for a moment. His Wanjian Dragon City had never received such trauma. But now is not the time to be in a daze, because in the sky, the black giant beast landed like a comet, crossing the tilted Wanjian Dragon City, holding a huge immortal light dragon sword, and arrived in front of the Destiny Dragon Lord in the blink of an eye. Wanjian slashed down. The power of the world, block it. Tianming Longjun was in disbelief, but in a hurry, he still mobilized the power of the world to resist Wu Yu. Violence. At this moment, Wu Yu was burning his own power, exerting himself to the limit. Coupled with the violent technique, his arms were extremely thick. The immortal light dragon sword collided with the power of the world again. This time, Wu Yu used absolute power to tear apart the power of his world. Finally, at this moment, I came face to face with the Destiny Dragon Lord. What? Regarding Wu Yu's huge power at this moment, Tianming Longjun's eyes widened and he was extremely shocked. This time, Wu Yu's power of the world of destiny, which had directly torn apart him, appeared in front of him. Xuanhuan realm finally found an opportunity. While the opponent continued to gather the power of the world to protect himself, Wu Yu was here and released the immortal cloud domain. Although it was not an autonomous world, there was a wonderful place in the immortal cloud domain. The ancient immortal dragon instantly fell into the swamp, and Wu Yu changed his form with ease. Escape quickly. From above, there was a sudden reminder from the heavenly Dragon King. A group of them seemed quite relaxed at first, but when the burning black beast appeared, the heavenly Dragon King's expression changed. He was probably more powerful than his destiny. She was still nervous, and she couldn't help but remind her at this time. In fact, Wu Yu at this time was so fast and violent that most of the Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords were impressed. Even Wu Jun and the others just understood where Wu Yu got the confidence to get first place. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. For a moment, seeing Wu Yu using the immortal cloud domain to trap the opponent, the dragons couldn't help but make a noise. Wu Yu had just reversed the opponent's attack, then tore apart the power of the world, and then used the immortal cloud domain to use many magical powers. Coupled with top-notch psychological quality, it can be said to be really clever. However, after finally trapping the opponent with the immortal cloud domain, how could he let the opponent escape? At that time, the power of the world will surround him again, but there will not be many opportunities to attack him. Wu Yu is burning, and the burning power will have an end. Once the burning ends, he will never be able to defeat the Destiny Dragon King again. Whoosh! When the Destiny Dragon Lord was frantically gathering the power of the world to squeeze out the immortal cloud domain, Wu Yu appeared beside him. The overbearing ancient immortal Destiny Dragon, and the body of Wu Yu, the sky-devouring giant beast, could be said to be so close, face to face. Your death date. Seeing Wu Yu's ferocious side, Taku Immortal Dragon actually panicked. Fortunately, he had already gathered the power of the world to slightly push away the surrounding immortal cloud domain, and was about to counterattack Wu Yu. At this moment, Wu Yu suddenly rushed towards him, and of course he could change his body. He instantly appeared behind the ancient immortal dragon, and his pair of thick arms suddenly grabbed the dragon's tail. As an immortal beast, it has long been possessed of magical powers and magic, and there is no martial arts. This kind of purely physical duel has long been eliminated. If others do this, the ancient immortal dragon can easily fly them away with the power of the world. However, the one who grabbed his tail was the physically abnormal Wu Yu. His first wave of world power did not let Wu Yu let go. Court death. The Taigu immortal life dragon was caught by its tail and was struggling desperately. At the same time, a second wave of attacks was brewing. The 10,000 Swords Dragon City also stabilized again, and countless sword blades were aimed at Wu Yu. I'm going to beat you to a pulp. Of course Tianming felt that this was very humiliating. Really, Wu Yu suddenly smiled at this moment. This was a very dangerous signal. Then, in the next moment, the dragon saw an incredible scene. Wu Yu dragged the dragon's tail, and with heaven-defying physical strength, he swung the ancient immortal dragon in a circle and slammed it into the Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza. Snap! This sound was accompanied by the sound of bones and flesh being broken, and blood splattering. Wu Yu's Dragon Elephant Tathagata Prajna Buddha body has nothing but great power, much larger than the real dragon elephant. A body particle is now an 8-headed divine dragon and 8-headed giant elephant. It was as if the mirror of Dragon Emperor Supreme Plaza was about to burst. Even the ground around them was shaking. The Destiny Dragon Lord also screamed. He may not have expected that Wu Yu would use such a primitive method to deal with him. This blow made him lose face and become a dishonest person. Go to hell. Under the control of 10,000 Sword Dragon City in the sky, countless sword shadows were blasting towards Wu Yu. Oh, Wu Yu smiled coldly, and then came the madness. He was like crazy, holding down his opponent's dragon tail, and then smashed it crazily on the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. Boom 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 boom. Almost in an instant, he hit it hard 7 or 8 times, making the Dragon King of Tianming scream again and again. The dragon scales exploded, the dragon horns were smashed, and a lot of dragon teeth fell off, let alone the world. The force was so strong that even Wanjian Dragon City couldn't control it after the collision. Those sword energy couldn't be aimed at Wu Yu, and they all stabbed at the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. Is that enough? One more, Wu Yu laughed, and then hit him a few more times. The sound of the broken bones was extremely harsh. At this time, the Destiny Dragon could only groan, fearing that he would beg for mercy. In fact, the changes in this battle were quite fast. Before, the Dragon Lord of Destiny had the absolute upper hand, playing tricks on Wu Yu, but suddenly, it suddenly changed. It only took a few moments for the Dragon Lord of Destiny to be smashed to the ground by Wu Yu. People were still praising the Destiny Dragon Lord, but not long after, they saw the Destiny Dragon Lord tragically falling on Wu Yu's body, foaming at the mouth and convulsing. As for this scene, many people may not be able to react to what it means, because almost all the dragons, including Wu Jun and the others, had stiff faces at this time. They were unable to react as they looked at the changes in the square. They could not react everywhere. All I heard was the sound of gasping for air. Wu Yu stepped on the dragon head of the Destiny Dragon King and said to the Destiny Dragon King, "Dragon King, it's time to announce the result of the battle." Before that, there was deathly silence for at least 10 breaths. Even the Heavenly Dragon King didn't say a word. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1319. Uncle, let's protect him, lest the Dragon King of Tianyu gets angry, Luo Ben quickly said to Wu Jun. Wu Jun was still a little confused at this time, but at least he knew that what Luo Ben said made sense, so almost as soon as Wu Yu finished talking to the Dragon King of Tianyu, he quickly took action and used a little magic. Wu Yu, who was far away, found that there was an extra halo on his body, protecting him and keeping a distance from the Dragon King of Tianming. Wu Yu looked back, and he knew that it must be Wu Jun who was protecting him, and his heart was much warmer. At least in this battle, there are still people who remember to protect themselves. Without Wu Yu's control, the Dragon King of Tianming stood up tremblingly, but he was too seriously injured and soon fell to the ground. He could only look at Wu Yu with a pair of blank eyes, looking at the dead silence around him. Sorry, you may have to wait another 9,000 years. Wu Yu looked at him with a smile. He had returned to human form from the appearance of a swallowing beast, and the battle was over. Although he had burned a lot of strength, after the battle, he might have trouble fighting the 9 combinations profound immortal, but defeating the Heavenly Fate Dragon King was indeed worth it. The Heavenly Fate Dragon King might be able to figure it out. This is reality, no matter whether he can accept it or not. Wow, he suddenly cried, his eyes were bloodshot, and he stared at Wu Yu. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you, he kept howling miserably, repeating this sentence, showing how much he hated Wu Yu. But even so, defeat is defeat. I'm never afraid of a defeated general. Wu Yu looked at him calmly. The other Dragon Kings and Dragon Kings were all in a bad mood. Looking at these scenes, they would feel a little embarrassed as members of the Shenlong clan, but they knew that the most furious one now should be the Heavenly Dragon King. But Wu Jun was well prepared and had already protected Wu Yu. Boom! Suddenly, Tian Yulongwang appeared beside Tianming. If Wu Jun hadn't protected him, Wu Yu estimated that the opponent's evil spirit could have killed him. To be on the safe side, Wu Jun quickly pulled Wu Yu back to his side after Tian Yulongwang took action. Now, Tian Yulongwang couldn't attack Wu Yu. After all, he also had to respect the fair result of the battle. Father, I embarrassed you. Now, I can only die to apologize. After the defeat, Tianming was in despair and could only think of suicide. Waste, Tian Yulongwang shocked him. Of course, he would not let his son die. He raised his head and looked at Wu Jun, Wu Hao and Wu Yu, saying, one day, I will return tenfold the insults my father and I suffered today. Wu Jun, Wu Hao, Ye Qianing, Wu Yu, none of you can escape. Every word he said was filled with rage. He probably never thought that the fairy world could challenge his dignity like this. His son, 9,000 years of preparation and waiting. Just gone. Wu Jun was neither humble nor arrogant, saying, King Tianyu Dragon should adjust his mentality. First, Wu Yu defeated Tianming in a fair and just way, which is not a humiliation. The strongest person should get the championship. What King Tianyu Dragon said is that whoever gets the first place is a humiliation to you. So is the champion decided by you. Second, we can see that in the battle, it was Tianming Dragon King who wanted to kill people everywhere, but Wu Yu did not really kill him. Wu Hao also laughed and said, King Tianyu Dragon should not think too much. Our fairy world is so small, how dare we humiliate you? When we meet you, we only dare to hide. This time, our people in the fairy world won Tianming by chance. I think King Tianyu Dragon really needs to adjust his mentality and don't let others think that he can't afford to lose. Wu Hao, no matter what, he must return the insult to him. No man likes to hear such insults from King Tianyu Dragon. In fact, Wu Yu did not intensify the conflict. With the relationship between Tianyu Dragon King and Wu Hao as rivals, the other party would always cause trouble for him. He just tried his best to win some face for Wu Hao. Tianyu Dragon King could only laugh at their brother's words and said, very good, I remember everything. There is a long way to go, let's wait and see. He took his son back to their Tianyu realm to heal his wounds. After returning, the younger generations all surrounded him. Tianzi, who had just experienced the battle, was not as seriously injured as Tianming Dragon King. At this time, they were all dazed. Few people were willing to believe that Tianming was defeated. He had waited for 9,000 years, and everyone thought that he was bound to win the championship, but it actually fell into Wu Yu's hands. So far, many Dragon Kings have kept their mouths shut, not knowing what to say. Only the Immortal realm was very happy. Of course, some Dragon Kings knew that the future of the Immortal realm would be difficult, because if the Tianyu Dragon King really wanted to take revenge, it would be quite scary. He was the son of the Tianxin Dragon Emperor of the Tianxin clan. What could he not do? The reason why everyone did not leave was because the Tianyi Dragon King had not officially announced it. At this time, people were looking at him. The Tianyi Dragon King was probably also surprised, but he was obviously more stable than the Tianyu Dragon King. He finally said, everyone has seen clearly that Wu Yu of the Immortal Realm has indeed defeated Tianming of the Tianyu Realm and the winner has been decided. So, I declare. The champion of this Dragon Emperor trial is, Wu Yu of the Immortal Realm. In the past, there would have been a lot of cheers at this time, but after all, Wu Yu is an immortal, so this time, there were very few cheers. Next, it was the rewards. Wu Yu also fought so hard for the Fusheng sword. Starting from the 10th place, all the prizes were in the Sumi bag. Of course, this was an ancient immortal level Sumi bag, and the space inside was terrifyingly large. 6th place, Zhonglanja, Zhongyan. In addition to the rewards, they are eligible to practice in the Haolong Tower for 500 years. 5th place, Tianyuja, Yunwuo. In addition to the rewards, they are eligible to practice in the Haolong Tower for 500 years. Then the 4th place was Lin Xiaoting, whose rewards were all in the Sumi bag and who was eligible to practice in the Haolong Tower for 1000 years. Although he got the reward, Lin Xiaoting was obviously not happy. 3rd place was naturally Tianzi, who was eligible to practice in the Haolong Tower for 2000 years. She got 3rd place, which was a little worse than expected. 2nd, Tianyu Realm, Tianming, in addition to the reward, has the Haolong Tower to practice for 4000 years. This 4000 years made many people salivate, but for Tianming, it was simply irony and ridicule, because he got 4000 years last time, but he gave up and waited for 9000 years, just for 10,000 years. However, he failed again, and this time it was even more tragic, failing at the hands of Wu Yu, an immortal he didn't even look up to. And, it was in public. Finally, it came to the 1st place. In fact, everyone still wanted to see how Tianyi Dragon King decided. In his hand, he held the last Sumuru bag. Wu Yu was an immortal. Although he had the Immortal Dragon Emperor order, he was not an immortal after all. Would he give Wu Yu the floating life sword with the 500 million magic array and terrible power? The scene was almost suffocating. People were waiting. In fact, most people certainly didn't want to reward Wu Yu, but rules were rules, so what would Tianyi Dragon King do? He just flicked the Sumuru bag lightly, and the Sumuru bag appeared in Wu Yu's hand. It was given to him. People sighed, feeling particularly unhappy, because that was the thing and glory that Tianming dreamed of. So, the dragons looked very bad, but the opportunity to practice in the Hadalong Tower. The Dragon King of Tianyi said, "This is the reward for being the champion. The champion should have a 10,000-year opportunity to practice in the Hadalong Tower, but because of the rule of my Shenlong clan, only Shenlong can enter the Hadalong Tower to practice, so I can't give you this 10,000-year opportunity to practice, and it may not be useful to you. Wu Yu, do you understand?" In fact, this was expected by Wu Yu. Moreover, he didn't want this 10,000 years. He could make a lot of progress in 10,000 years outside. However, he still looked a little regretful and said, "I understand, but I want to ask the Dragon King of Tianyi, if I give this 10,000-year opportunity to practice to Luo Bin, she is an ancient fairy dragon with a promising future, I don't know if it's okay." Wu Yu had thought so a long time ago. However, the Dragon King Tianyi still shook his head and said, "No, our dragon clan stipulates that this opportunity can only be won by oneself, and cannot be given away. Otherwise, it will disrupt the rules." As Wu Yu expected, he just insisted for a while. At this time, the Dragon King of Xianmeng realm suddenly stood up and said, "In our 9 major dragon clans, there is one who can practice in the Hadalong Tower for 10,000 years in each trial. This time it is our Tianxing clan's turn. If the 10,000 years are vacant, it will be very unfair to us. Practicing in the Hadalong Tower for 10,000 years will definitely be our pillars in the future. So I suggest that in order not to suffer losses, the opportunity to practice in the Hadalong Tower will be postponed. Tianming will get 10,000 years, Tianzi will get 4,000 years, and so on. Let the 11th place in the Purgatory Pillar get 500 years of practice time, but the reward prize will remain unchanged. This proposal is beneficial to too many people, so for a while, many Dragon Kings of the hundreds of realms directly agreed and supported the views of the Dragon King of Xianmeng realm. Even Tianming's eyes lit up when he heard this proposal. The Dragon King of Xianmeng realm is really thoughtful. "Big brother, what do you think, Tianyu Dragon King?" I'm afraid he already had an idea. Maybe he asked the Dragon King of Xianmeng realm to say it. Tianyi Dragon King was silent. This is actually a major decision, which is also good for his descendants. After this decision is made, it is estimated that only the immortal spirit realm will be dissatisfied. Wu Yu defeated Tianming, so he didn't want him to have another chance of 10,000 years. Everything depends on the decision of Tianyi Dragon King. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1320. Wu Yu was a little unhappy. Why did the Heavenly Dragon King, who was defeated by him, still get the opportunity of 10,000 years that he wanted most? Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The loser should not get the reward of the winner, even if the winner does not need it. But he saw the expression of the Heavenly Dragon King and knew that he also supported this view in his heart, but he was a little unruly. Wu Jun said, "The other party is powerful, and it is enough for us to get these prizes. Think more open-mindedly and don't get entangled with the other party." Wu Yu nodded and said, "Okay." In fact, he also got the fusion sword he wanted, so he didn't bother to care about the Heavenly Dragon King. There are, Creation Immortal Talisman, 10 pieces, Creation Divine Pill, 10 pieces, including 5 Creation Divine Pills. There are also 3 kinds of Realm Master Magic. There are a number of fairy treasures, fairy essences and fairy spirits, and they are all more than 1,000 spirit patterns. Of course, the most important thing is the immortal weapon of creation, the floating life sword. Finally, the Dragon King of Heavenly will said, "I have asked the 2 dragon lords. This proposal does not conform to the rules of our immortal Dragon Emperor realm. It will not take effect. The dragons were regretful, and the Dragon King of Heavenly Will was even more angry. Wu Yu was a little surprised. He thought that the Dragon King of Heavenly Will could decide everything. In this way, the trial of the Dragon Emperor Purgatory was completely over. The dragons can be disbanded. Wu Yu also wanted to go back early to see what secrets there were between the floating life sword and the white dragon scales. All he needed was for the Dragon King of Heavenly Will to announce it, and he could leave immediately. But at this time, he suddenly said solemnly and seriously, "Tianxing Clan Dragon, follow me to pay homage to Tianyu Dragon Lord, Huan Dragon Lord." Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the two dragon lords who watched the battle secretly would want to show up at the end. For a moment, all the dragons prostrated themselves on the ground, and Wu Yu also knelt on one knee. After all, these were the top superpowers of the dragon clan. Wu Yu estimated that they had surpassed the Tags of Fairyland and became the legendary Eternal Emperor Immortal. That was the most terrifying existence in the entire heaven, the top immortal in the mouth of the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. In fact, it was also them who misunderstood the level of the immortal behind Wu Yu. No need to be polite. A heavy voice came from the sky, and only then could the dragons raise their heads. Wu Yu raised his head slightly, and his neck was suppressed. Dragon Lord really couldn't look straight. He vaguely saw that half of the clouds in the sky were white, and there was a giant beast vaguely. That should be Tianyu Dragon Lord, who came from the Tianxing clan. The other half of the sky was full of burning flames, which was obviously the fire pattern Dragon Lord from the Fire Life clan. In fact, under normal circumstances, it was all over, and the two Dragon Lords would not appear. Could it be that there was something wrong with this trial, and there was any inside story? The Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords were all a little suspicious. Wu Yu couldn't look up. Luo Ben was right beside him. Both of them were in human form. She stretched out her jade hand and held Wu Yu's. Wu Yu could feel her nervousness, because Wu Yu also guessed that their appearance might have something to do with him. No wonder they knew that he had the white dragon scale. Or, did they see through Wu Yu and there was no immortal behind him? Or even, did they know the Monkey King? After all, they might all be top-level beings. There were many guesses in his mind. He could even feel that the eyes of the two Dragon Lords were locked on him. "I wonder if the two Dragon Lords have any instructions," asked the Dragon King of Heaven's Will. A warm voice asked, "I have something to ask Wu Yu." Everyone was in a state of panic. It was indeed directed at Wu Yu. The Dragon Lord came forward, and even Wu Jun was a little nervous. "Excuse me, Dragon Lord." Wu Yu was still very courageous. Although he couldn't look up at this time, he dared to speak. That warm voice should have come from Tianyu Dragon Lord. He asked, "Who in the heavenly palace inherited your magical powers?" Wu Yu held his breath and said, "Dragon Lord, I really don't know. I have been exploring on my own all the way. Otherwise, I would not have come to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm after becoming an immortal." Anyway, he refused to admit it. This is also a gamble. In this heavenly court, facing these top existences, he is weak and alone. He must take a gamble. He bets that these two Dragon Lords will also be afraid of the immortals behind them and dare not mess with him. "It seems that the immortal does not want to be exposed," Tianyu Dragon Lord said. "It seems that he will not delve into it. Let me ask you the second question." Suddenly there was a rough voice, which should be that of the fire pattern Dragon Lord. He said, "You are not an immortal, but a mutated immortal beast, and even have the breath of demon gods and ghosts. Let me ask you, do you know what kind of immortal beast you are? In my opinion, I have never seen an immortal beast like you in the heaven." When these words came out, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Wu Yu to be not an immortal, but an immortal beast. Some of their dragon kings didn't even see it. Now thinking back, the golden immortal ape before was indeed not an immortal beast, but the black giant beast that changed later was obviously an immortal beast. It's just that I didn't think about it that way before. Wu Yu could only act according to circumstances and answered, replying to Dragon Lord, I really don't know what kind of immortal beast I am, but maybe this is why the immortal chose me. He said this because he wanted the other party to know nothing about him, but still be afraid of the immortal behind him and dare not investigate him, fearing to offend that immortal. After all, in this heaven, the Shenlong clan can only be regarded as an excellent race, but the heaven is still controlled by immortals. Those peak existences are not comparable to the 9 dragon emperors of Shenlong. For example, the Central Jade Emperor, the Queen Mother of the West, the North Pole Zhongtianzaiwei Emperor, the South Pole Changsheng Emperor, Yuanqi Tianzun, Lingbao Tianzun, Daodi Tianzun, etc. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. This answer, between the lightning and the fire, is also a gamble. After Wu Yu answered, the 2 dragon lords did not speak for the time being, probably in discussion. Everyone was still very nervous, and so was Wu Yu. It was possible that if the other party was a little bolder, he might be finished. This immortal dragon emperor world is not a place to mix well. Finally, Tianyu Dragon Lord spoke. He said, Wu Yu, we have no ill will towards you. But we, the immortal dragon clan, have our own rules. Do you know that? I'd like to hear more about it, Wu Yu said. In fact, the other party said this in a very polite tone, which at least showed that he was still afraid of the immortal behind him. So at least his life was not in danger. Tianyu Dragon King was quite looking forward to it. Hearing the polite tone of the 2 dragon lords, he was a little discouraged, but he still looked forward to what the dragon lord would say next. Tianyu Longzun said, we know the relationship between you and my little dragon Luo Bin. Our Shenlong clan does have a precedent of marrying with excellent immortals. The power of immortals is the most extensive in the heaven. However, my clan has almost no precedent of marrying with other immortal beasts. Because other immortal beasts are competitors to us, our Xianlong clan is the supreme among all immortal beasts. My clan is not willing to let our clan members marry with immortal beasts. Before, I thought you were an immortal, but I didn't expect that you were an immortal beast, which is different. Moreover, my clan has never given immortal beasts the precedent of Xianlong Emperor Order, so I will also take back your Xianlong Emperor Order. Wu Yu never expected that there would be such a change, otherwise, even if he was defeated, he would not show the body of the Tianyan giant beast, although the Tianyan giant beast is indeed much more powerful. There is a difference between immortals and immortal beasts. But this is understandable. The Shenlong clan is very arrogant. There are many immortals who rule the heavens, and they are convinced. But among the immortal beasts, his Shenlong clan is the supreme. Other immortal beasts are all competitors for this supreme status, so the Phoenix, Kylin, etc. are all hostile. Therefore, the immortals and the Shenlong clan can accept it, but they cannot accept the immortal beasts. Fire Pattern Dragon Lord said, this Dragon Emperor trial is over, you can pack up and leave. From now on, you are not allowed to enter the immortal Dragon Emperor realm again. You have too much to do with Luo Bin. This is not the mortal world. Your relationship has been broken. The rules are the foundation of our foothold. We must not break them, otherwise it will be difficult to convince the public. We are not deliberately trying to break you up, but your union really breaks the rules of our clan. These words are a bit like a thunderbolt for Wu Yu and Luo Bin. The other dragons, especially those in the 3 realms, finally laughed out loud at this time. It was really 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. Wu Yu was arrogant just now, and now it was his turn to suffer. Even the injured Tianming couldn't help laughing at this time. It's retribution. Ha ha, Tianming laughed. Get out of my Xianlongdi realm quickly, What a broken fairy beast. The fairy dragon clan really looked down on other fairy beast clans. They were the well-deserved first, even if they had declined. The ugly faces of many dragons finally showed smiles again. The more they saw Wu Yu's face was livid and angry in their hearts, the happier they were. This change was indeed beyond Wu Yu's expectations, and Wu Jun and others didn't know that Wu Yu was a fairy beast before, so they didn't consider this. But in fact, Wu Yu was not a fairy beast. The swallowing giant beast was still a god of all things, but after all, it was difficult to distinguish now, and he couldn't tell what he was. But the other party has already determined that it is a fairy beast. Wu Yu, if you see your master, please say hello to him on behalf of our fairy dragon clan, and ask him to understand. In addition, the reward of Dragon Emperor Purgatory is earned by your hard work and still belongs to you. We will give you 5 days to stay. After 5 days, don't show up in my fairy dragon emperor world, Tianyu Dragon Lord said. They have already decided. Wu Yu was temporarily angry and unwilling, but they couldn't do anything about it. After all, rules are rules and they can't break them. Wu Yu and Luo Bin's fingers were clasped together and held tightly. At this time, Luo Bin suddenly said, "Two dragon lords, I would like to ask, you said before that we have almost no precedent for marriage with other fairy beasts. Does the word almost mean that it has existed before?" She was still very calm. Ye Qianning seemed to remember it. She said, "Yes, I remember that 700,000 years ago, there was a Blackwing Phoenix King in the Eternal Phoenix clan who married one of our dragon kings, and the wedding was held in our Tianxing clan. The Blackwing Phoenix King also received the Immortal Dragon Emperor order and served us for many years until the Dragon King made a mistake in his cultivation and died of demonic possession. The Blackwing Phoenix King then returned to the Eternal Phoenix clan. Now he is probably at the level of Eternal Emperor Immortal. She has a good memory. After all, this is also a romantic love story. In addition to her, many Dragon Kings also remember it, so Ye Qianning is not talking nonsense." This, Tianyu Longzun was stumped by the question.